right, here we go. Well, let me start by saying, all summer, when everybody said, well, how are we going to be? We're going to go back to the Elite Eight. How are we going to be? How are we going to be? My comment was, we've just lost 4 NBA players in 2 years. That's a major drain on your talent. But we still have a lot of guys back that have won together and have won at a high level. So I have been very excited, starting back in June when we had the freshmen here, working with this group. This morning probably was our 12th practice. We got the refs coming in this afternoon to scrimmage a little bit. But we've got a heck of a lot to work with, and we're still old. Get old and stay old has kind of been a theme around here. So we still got experience. And I think the key is, there was a great question last night at the season ticket dinner. What's your goal? Well, there's no question in that locker room. I don't have to talk about any goals. This group of guys talks about playing past the Elite Eight. I mean, that's awesome when your culture kind of generates that kind of leadership and tone without me getting involved. I always like to take a step back from that because I know how hard it is to just earn an NCAA bid. And you got to get access to the thing before you can have fun in March like we've had the last 2 years. And it will be harder for us to get a bid this year than it was the previous 2 years, given what we've lost and that the league is amazingly deep. Having said that, I think we have a great chance of doing that, and we'd like to get back into the thing and have fun in March.
Like, what does it do for the confidence level of this program to where, okay, you go to the Elite Eight once, that's a feel-good story, but to do it back-to-back years kind of even puts you more on the map as to the success and the stability of what you've done here.
It's really been powerful for our program through the off-season, and I think people always really respected our program before the last 2 years. We were solid, how we did it, how we groomed guys, but the last 2 years have kind of kicked us into a new level of stuff. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the things, Tom, it really does is it drives the confidence of that locker room. Those guys have played in big games. Many of them have made big plays in big games. And you just can't simulate that in practice. You got to experience that, and we've got a good nucleus that has.
Mike, you look upbeat. How do you recharge your batteries every year to
Tell you, it took me a little longer this year because, I had that injury when I showed my vertical jump in the Sweet 16 game against Wisconsin. I think you do a good job picking your spots, getting away. May is a month where you can shut the gears down a little bit, and then August is too. I think as I've gotten to be a more experienced coach, not older coach, more experienced coach, I've learned to be able to change gears a little bit. What helps you regenerate is when the culture of your program is solid and you have good staff and good leadership helping you run it. And so you don't have to have your hands on everything.
Is that stretching routine that you went through pre-practice, is that part of the injury?
That is, well, no, I've always done that, but I think I just need to do it more and more. I tell you, the one thing I feel now when I'm on the practice floor for 2 hours, I feel it, so Tony always stretches me out.
As it relates to your young coaching staff, starting with Humphrey, what tangible evidence have you seen his impact with your big men?
Well, he's got great energy, and he connected with our big guys right away. Here's a guy who played in the league, played here. There's the utmost respect was there from day one, but he delivered. They came in hearing about him, and I told them about him as we were going through the process, the big guys, that is. Here's who we're going to hire. So they've got a lot of respect. Now, you got to deliver on that. And Ryan certainly has done that. He's out there, playing post defense on him. He's still physical enough to demonstrate everything. He's the only big guy coach I've had that can stand behind a guy, Martin Gebbin, playing kind of dummy post defense. And when Martin goes up, he blocks it. I've never had a big guy coach just go up and pin it like above the rim. He still does that. So he's really good with our bigs. He's really connected with them. Energy. I love the energy he's brought on the recruiting trail. It's been waiting to bring some guys back, as we said back in the spring when we hired these guys. I've had guys like warming up in the bullpen, so to speak, and now we've been able to bring them back.
There was a moment yesterday where Gavin kind of closed out on a guy underneath, and Tom and I said that's Humphrey's influence. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, he's really been able to bond with him, and Martin's a key for us, obviously. We need him to have one of those junior years that we've had around here with guys. But I think he's been great connecting with him because he knows how much, and he has a good balance of when to get after him. And all I know is when I walk down the hall, there's either one or two big guys in his office. They stop through, and that's a great sign.
What about Ayers?
Ayers got a great feel for it too. I remember him sitting in my office when he was a junior, and me saying to him, "You ever think about coaching? You'd be really good." Of course, at that year, junior year, you're still thinking about playing a little bit. But darn if it didn't come full circle. Obviously, the bloodlines are unbelievable. Being around his dad and what he's seen his whole life. He's kind of calm here. He's kind of measured, like he was as a player. He wasn't overly emotional, but has really, really good insights. I love what he's done with the individual workouts with our perimeter guys. Like, he really has brought some new stuff, some different stuff to our individual workouts that I think has freshened up some things in our program.
You mentioned juniors that developed. BJ Beecham kind of took that to a new level when it really mattered last year going into the two tournaments. Where have you seen his growth? And without that, he seems to have kind of elevated you guys going into this season to just go by that growth.
Yeah, there's no question. I think the biggest area is his voice. One of the things, and we've seen it done here, where the baton is handed to the next group of leaders who've had good leadership role models before them. And he's really, even though he's a quiet guy, has worked to be more of a voice. I still think we can get more out of him there. I think when he is vocal, it gives him more confidence, and it makes him a little more accountable then too. But he's hit the ground this summer and through the fall, really a very confident guy. We want to keep him confident. Still trying to figure out how do we help him offensively? What do we do? One of the things we've talked about with this group and by way of our offense this year is our bigs have to be great off-the-ball screeners, more so than the last 2 years. Our bigs the last 2 years maybe were more ball screener role guys. And we still ball screen and roll and fill because that's a good thing for us. But to get Vastori and Beecham open, that's the number one role of these big guys on the offensive end. And I think they've digested that well.
Mike, you mentioned the 4 NBA players over 2 years. Do you have, is it VJ, is it Steve that would be your Demetrius this year, your Jaren, or is it more a total team effort?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I think that's developing. I don't know if I can answer that yet. I think my initial reaction would be we need to do that a little bit more as a group. But what's been neat about our program, sometime during the year, a guy has stepped forward and all of a sudden has been a key guy. A guy that's on my mind a lot is Bonzie Colson, with his career to date and his play in big games, and that he'll be even, more confident. He could be one of those guys that does that. But I think a little bit of everything, and you're kind of watching to see who could grow into that.
Mike, how is Martin Gavin's focus maybe a little bit different coming into this season?
Well, I told him, the first guy I met with when we got back from Philadelphia was him. I called him in, and because I knew he had a tough year, and really a tough 2 years playing behind Zach. We downshifted and played small, which affected his playing time. And there's no question he contemplated transferring. I always talk about once you get to the spring, you're in roster management mode. And I called him in and basically was very honest with him. I said, Martin, you've had 2 tough years. Number one, I appreciate your attitude. Your attitude's been unbelievable. Hadn't been easy. And I know you've thought about maybe reinventing yourself somewhere else. If you feel you need to do that, I'd love to help you with that. I'm here to support you. But let me say this. We're going to start workouts next week. White shirts are our starters. If I see you in anything other than a white shirt the rest of the way, spring and summer through the fall, I'm going to kick you out of the gym. You're our starting big guy. You need to carry yourself like that. You don't have to do a whole lot. You've got veterans around you. but we're very invested in you. And I said, now, you think about that. And I left him with this line, because, Martin, Lithuanian, he likes American slang and sayings. I said, hey, Martin, one last thing before you leave. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. He came back 2 days later, and he goes, that's a real good one, Coach, and let's keep moving forward.
Mike, 2 years ago, it seemed like they came back from Italy and they were pretty tight and ready to roll there, and they went nothing but up. And last year, it seemed like you were pushing a different button into late February, trying to figure out what really gets these guys together. Where do you see this year's group on that?
That's a great question. I don't know if I can answer that one yet till we have some adversity, You're right. We came at it from a different way. It was very smooth 2 years ago. Last year was mixing and matching and putting it together. I know I'm prepared for both. And I don't know. I do think because we're still old, there's stability there with those older guys. They're even keeled emotionally too, so that kind of helps. But it's funny. It's why I used to make a week of practice plans, and then I'd tear up the 6 days after the first day because we're like, oh, we and so I'm very much a live day to day guy, and I maybe have a better bearing on that around Christmas.
Mike, how was Matt Farrell better than what he was in March?
He's again, like Martin Gebbin, we gave him the ball. Like, you're the guy. I don't want any indecision. You're the guy to run the team, and man, did he deliver for us in March. He's a more confident guy because we've said it's your team, run the team. He's more vocal. We've got, with him and Steve and VJ, they have great thoughts, but they don't always verbalize them. They're quieter guys, but he's now, as the main handler, he's got to call stuff. It's not Demetrius out there with him calling stuff. So he's, been into that role. I've loved the decisions he's made with the ball. He has gotten better with the ball. His decision-making and his assist to turnover was an issue that he needed to improve on, and I think he's made really good strides off of that. The one thing I want him to do, and I got on him yesterday, is he should not turn down shots. The guy is a heck of a shooter, and did he miss in March? I don't know if he missed a shot in March. So he turned down a shot yesterday to kick it to a guy who's less of a threat. And I know we're unselfish here and we pass, and I said, man, you got to take that, man. And I think we're going to need him to score the ball for us, and I think he can.
How does he work with Gibbs?
Yeah, right now I haven't played them a lot together, but I tell you what, the competition with two New Jersey guys, they go after each other's throat every day. It's really good competition. But we will get to that some. Those two guys can certainly play together, and TJ has been impressive. There's great toughness about him. There's a will about him, given he's the youngest of two brothers who beat on him in the gym. He's physical. He's ready to play ACC basketball as a freshman.
Mike, what's your starting lineup if you were starting?
If we played tonight, it would be Farrell, Vastoria, Beecham, Colson, Gebbin. That's our group right there. That's the group we've gone with a lot. And I would say, unless something crazy happens, that's who we would start in our first exhibition game on the first, and you kind of read it from there.
Where's Matt Ryan in his recovery, and would that be different perhaps if he was available?
He would have probably made a run at it in some way, shape, or form. But my feeling was, for the confidence of Farrell and Gebbin, who are going to be key for us, we knew the big three are the big three. Those guys really don't come out of a white shirt. Those two guys, Farrell and Gebbin, I felt needed to know I got their back and they're in there. Obviously, Matt Ryan's health situation, I think early November, we dodged a stress fracture. It's a stress reaction, and we do need him. But we're not going to rush him back. But I just felt, Gebbin and Farrell had to feel like they're our guys going into this thing.
What are you looking to see from TJ, and how is he maybe similar to his older brothers or different?
Well, I tell you, he's got that Warrior I-95 North Jersey mentality. When they would go to the gym with their old man and play one-on-one, you can imagine TJ had to fight for his life, and then he probably had to fight for food at night at the dinner table. So there is a great toughness about him. Here's how he's different than his older brothers. He's more of a point guard, or he can really play both. Those guys were scoring guards, kind of two men, and were really, really good college players. This guy has a little more of the playmaker, ball handling, quarterbacking in him.
Mike, how does Bonzi have to change as he goes into sort of being the full-time starter rather than the bench spot?
Yeah, well, we got to get him in great shape to play longer minutes, and I think he's done a great job in the offseason, with his body to understand that. He's just going to have to play longer minutes for us. I think for me, the challenge always is, where are we using Bonzi at this point in the game? Do we downshift and play him as our only big? We'll certainly come back to that because that's good to us. Does Pfluger come in for Gebbin? Does Ryan come in for Gebbin? And then we downshift again. That has been really good for us. And I think, it's up to me to have a feel in the game of when to do that. He's playing facing the bucket a little bit more, and he seems to get more comfortable every year facing the bucket. Certainly, he can make a jump shot out there. His three-point shot is something we want him to take, not in heavy volumes. I think the biggest thing I'm concerned about is his footwork out there. Sometimes he gets playing a little fast and he travels, and that's a big point of emphasis this year. Traveling and off-the-ball screens. We scrimmaged last Tuesday. We had 5 travels and 6 illegal screens. Now, the illegal screens, I don't mind much, because if you ain't illegal screening, you ain't really trying. So that's okay, and I got plenty of guys I can use to get Bastori and Beecham open. But Bonds has got to calm those feet down. Then we've got to get him to the elbow. Then we've got to post him. The one thing we found playing through him, I'll tell you the one thing he's doing. He's really passing well. He's been up there leading us in assists a couple practices, and he's been kicking out to shooters and making really good plays with the ball. That's an area where I've really been impressed with.
Mike, there's some interesting rule changes in addition to what you mentioned. Are there any others that are a little tricky that you have?
There's really, the whole theme of freedom of movement. So the quick hands on the perimeter, or if you do this in the post, it's automatic. You can use the arm bar in the post. I still think it's really hard to play post defense when a guy is barreling down on you at 240, and that's why we've helped from the perimeter more, because if you do this or lean, it's automatic. On the perimeter, a hand check is going to be quick. 2 things they're really watching is sloppy feet, the travel, slide and a pivot. And we need to be better at that. VJ's had a couple, Matt Farrell, we get those quick feet and we get going without it. Illegal screens I talked about. The only major change has to do with the arc, whereas if an offensive player is driving, obviously if he drives in, if a guy is in the arc and he's the primary defender, if he bumps into him and he's standing on the floor, he can bowl him over and it's going to be a block because it's in the arc. That rule, because we didn't change the language, even kind of went into an airborne player. So you jump from the arc to block a shot, and Demetrius Jackson goes in and gives you a clothesline in the jaw, it's a foul on you, and that's really not right. The NBA rule is if you're up in the air, verticality out of the arc, and a guy clears you, it's going to be an offensive foul now.
Like the travel call in particular is going to bog games down a little bit in January.
There's going to be some quick whistles because they've really been on sloppy feet. We've gotten a little bit of the Euro step in our game, and watch Joe go. He's all about the Euro step, so we'll see how he does. But it's the pivot when you I'll tell you where a lot of it's coming. Shot fake and guys are going, and they're kind of doing the splits. They don't have the left foot established or the right foot established, and they're putting that ball down before that other foot picks up. And you know what it is? It's a lot of it right now is every team is playing too fast, especially their freshmen. They're so excited. They're playing too quick. Vastoria never walks, by the way. I just have him demonstrate all day. But that's going to be something they're going to really look at, and I think they'll call it what could bog the game down is quick whistles on illegal screens, hand checks. They're going to call it. It's the whole freedom of movement. theory that's still going to be out there. I don't know. Do you think it stayed in throughout the season last year? Probably waned a little bit, right? It is what it is. It gets interesting year to year and as the year goes.
Like you compared the ACC this year to the old Big East.
Yeah.
What did you really learn from the Big East, and how can you communicate that
Yeah.
to your current players?
Well, it had a little bit of the feel last year, but now I really think we have 10 teams that could be NCAA tournament worthy. I sure hope we get 10 right now here sitting on media day, because our league is really deep, and it does have the feel of the league we left. Good news, bad news, and you've heard me say this, bad news is, man, we play in the ACC and it's deep and there's 10 NCAA tournaments. Good news is we play in the NCAA and there's 10 teams. There's a number of games in your 18-game schedule that can be resume wins, and you don't have to get all of them. So, I've used this as a reference point before. That year that we got 11 bids in the Big East and every other league thought conspiracy theory, every time a bubble team in February needed a good win, they beat a team that was kind of in a lock position, like a top 50. It almost happened every time, and that's why it drove the rest of those, those tail end NCAA teams in the Big East. It drove them into the bracket. So, for us, we're going to take big punches, man. I mean, can we be stable, which we have been here pretty much, and be resilient and pick off a few? Sometimes it only takes a week. Last year it took a week. It was Carolina, Clemson, and Louisville. Game over. We're in. And, so when you have those on the docket, you look and go, oh, my God, we got to play them. But they also, you get enough of them, boom, you're in the thing.
Mike, how deep do you see your rotation going this year?
That's a hard one to say, Tom. I mean, Rex Pfluger has been fabulous, by the way. And I think of him almost as a sixth starter. He is one confident guy, and he's improved his decision-making with the ball. I've played him over with the white shirts a lot. He's been my first sub many times. Torres is Torres, man. He comes and gives us energy, and he's been a voice and a leader. This is his fourth year in the program. Johnny Mooney has been impressive, our young freshman. He's physically, like TJ, ready to play as a young guy. He can stretch the floor a little bit and shoot it, like Rob Kurz did from that spot. Elijah Burns is healthy. That's been good, and he's a physical guy. There's 9 guys on my mind right now. Can we do that the whole year? Probably not, but we got to keep all those guys really alive in the midst of it. I'm just trying to think of other guys I didn't mention. Nick's young, our freshman. He's really good, but he's a younger guard. And we, right now with Vastorian, Beecham, and Farrell, and there's not a whole lot for him, but I think he's going to be a long-term investment for us.
Like with Torres, do you see more out of him, or is he still in that same role that you kind of?
Yeah, same stuff. Even though I know everybody at Penn High School wants him to shoot 3-point shots, and I get emails every day. But we want him to be that energy guy, screener, and you know what? He knows that's who he is. It's so refreshing coaching Austin Torres, because he's the one guy whose role is limited, but he knows that's what I do. And when he does it well, he can be, as we've seen here, an amazingly energizing force. I get back to fourth year with us. He's a voice as much as Beecham and Vastorian Colson, because he's seen it all around here.
Like you mentioned with BJ, you said maybe he needs to be more vocal. I mean, how do you do that when it goes against personality a little bit?
Yeah, I think, you suggest it to him every now and then. I've gotten on him a little bit in practice. And maybe the voice is more in huddles, because one of the things that was so powerful in our run in March, I come into the huddle, and that's one of the neat things. We had an NBA scout at the scrimmage last Tuesday who's watched us play for a while. He said, what I love about your guy? He said 2 things. Your guys stay in their lane, man. They know who they are. We do. We know how to play. We know who we are. Our freshmen have jumped in there and understood who they are. And he said, then when you get to the bench, before you get there, your guys are always communicating with each other on the bench. Sometimes they're challenging. Sometimes they're, hey, man, on to the next play. In March, my memory was coming in and being surprised to hear VJ Beecham being vocal. Obviously, he was playing good, so he was feeling better about himself. I love him talking in huddles because he's really steady and he's a voice of reason. he's not going, I don't want him changing too much, but he can give us more.
So how important, if Torres is such a big voice for you guys, and I believe that he is it important that he gets a certain amount of minutes to kind of legitimize that?
Yeah, I think you have to keep him in the mix. There's no question about it. Is he going to be the first big sub off? He really could be on November 1st and as we get started. But he has to be involved. There's no question about it. I give him a lot of credit. I mean, I have the utmost respect for Austin Torres because he's gone stretches in his career where he hadn't played for 6 games. And then we put him in the game and he's ready to go. I mean, that takes a heck of a guy and a lot of maturity. And he knows from me directly and his teammates how much that's appreciated.
On Elijah Burns, I know you guys were pretty high on him last year, and obviously the injury happens. Have you seen kind of flashes or seen him start?
Yeah. Well, the great thing, as I mentioned earlier, he stayed healthy. He's not had the best of luck there. He is a physical specimen, and he throws that body around, and he really knows how to play. We're talking about voices. There's not a better voice out there than Elijah Burns. If you ever watch us practice, he's talking on defense, he's talking on offense, and he's loud. And he's one of those bigs we got to keep alive and see, let them all get a bite of it and see how it goes through the season. But, our practices are very competitive because guys like Burns, our freshmen, are physically ready. They go after the white shirts every day.
Do you consider having to manage Vastoria's minutes? I know you've never wanted to take him out, but
Yeah, I think we do. I think we really do. We've talked about that, and even Beecham. Beecham, I think, averaged 31 minutes a game. We've done a thing this year. We've got the heart monitors on guys, and we've got a lot of good data that Skip Meyer and Tony Berlinski look at on workload, and that's given me a little bit better feel of day-to-day, week-to-week, where the workload is on guys. But there's no question, and God, it's easy to say that right now. And then the heat of battle, Steve's guarding the best player. He's taking the ball out of bounds. He's making every big shot. When do we rest him? But I think where I really have to be smart is how I practice him, not only in January and February, but now. Like, we've not been going 2 hours right now. We get a lot of work done in an hour and 25 minutes, hour and 30, hour and 15 yesterday.
Pfluger's defensive ability to sub
That
in
helps
for
us.
Vastoria helps.
Yeah, that really helped us last year. You could put him in and put him on the best guard, and Steve, didn't have to chase a guy. And Rex will continue to do that for us. So that was one of the reasons we went to him and went away from Matt Farrell last year.
Did you go back and look at the games in March and look to see why Steve struggled so much down the stretch the way he did?
Watched it a little bit. I do think there was probably a fatigue factor there. There's no question. The other thing is, it's interesting in group dynamics. All of a sudden, the VJ Beecham kind of just took off and kind of took a little bit of his role. And, it's interesting in the dynamics of a group sometimes. Steve, I give him credit. He didn't want to force anything. It was like, we're kind of rolling right here doing this. And I'll defend and I'll play my kind of secondary role a little bit. We certainly like VJ, and that's why the big guys have been charged with this from our first practice in June. And Coach Hump is on their butt. Get those 2 guys open. Turn and screen off the ball and get them open and help them a little more.
So how do you think they'll work together this year, since they had a little trouble in March?
I think they'll work, Tom. I think they will work well together. Watching them through the summer and the fall, I think they're both very aggressive now. There's holes to be filled, obviously, with Zach and Demetrius leaving the roster, who were 2 aggressive guys. And so, and also we've kind of set it up, their roles are go get those guys open. We want to get them open and make plays, curling screens, fading screens, opportunities on out-of-bounds situations to screen for those guys to get a look. We didn't necessarily play like that last year. It was, we got back into, which was very efficient, ball screen, roll, make the extra pass. Now, we still do that when we downshift. When we downshift and get small, we can still play that way, and that's very, very effective for us.
The best screeners among the bigs.
Gebbin is really good. Torres is fabulous. Gebbin is good. Elijah Burns is very good. Those guys really, they're willing screeners and they know when to screen. Their timing is good with stuff.
Mike, when you look at Gavin and you talk about how big his role needs to be, how big does it need to be, being the only true big guy that you have, and he has not really played much?
Yeah. And I think what we want him to do is, it's simple. So it's not, he's in with some veteran guys. I need you to get guys open, need you to rebound and play post defense. And right there. Now, if you do all that, you're gonna score for us enough. You're gonna be around on drop-offs, because when you set a good screen and Vastoria or Beecham curl off you, your guy helps a lot of times. So he's gotten a lot of roll stuff around the bucket. The one thing I love about Martin Gebben, he's automatic from the foul line. He's a guy that gets to the offensive boards, and when you get to the offensive boards, you get fouled a lot. He's automatic from the foul line. I think we'll see him through the course of the year make a 15, 18-foot jump shot. He's banged down a couple threes in game situations. I don't know if I want to go there yet, but simple. He went on that foreign tour, and he was a double-double guy in like 24 minutes. I mean, if he's going to play some key minutes, can he get us 8, 9, maybe close to 10 rebounds? That's been my challenge for him, because obviously we've lost a heck of an automatic rebounder in Zach.
That's what I wanted to get into, 10, 11 rebounds a game. Is that, you're looking at like 7, 8 for Gebben, and then maybe spread it out among the others?
Yeah, Lou, we've got to, that's my biggest concern. We were able to rebound. We were able to rebound well enough. Now, when we downshift, keeping people off the board is tricky, because now you've got Vastoria or Beecham on a power forward, and the blockouts where Bonzi will rebound. I think Bonzi is going to be up there around double-figure rebounds. He's going to play those minutes, and he certainly has a great nose for the ball. But can Gebben get us 7, 8? I think Beecham can get us 4. But that's a concern. And we get into that when we're playing small. You get into that catch-22 of, all right, they can't guard us. Can we keep them off the board enough? But right now we've got them so spread out. Are we being more efficient and just getting enough blockouts where we're not getting scorched on the backboard? And that's a fine line, as the game goes.
What do you expect to be this group's defensive strength?
Yeah, it's interesting. They like to guard. I think they learned last year in March that they could really dig in. When you put Pfluger in the game, it gives you a great shot in the arm defensively. But Vastoria, we know, is solid. Matty Farrell is an underrated defender. I mean, he's taken the most charges of anybody in practice. He can stay in front of people, and he works to do it. He's a great help defender. He gets his hands on stuff. Martin Gebben is a solid post defender. He gives you that solid post body all the time. I used to be after Zach about that. But Martin Gebben can play post defense. So I think we could improve defensively than the unit we started last year. And we've got to mix in some zone, and because with our length on the back line, that helps us. But we're good. That group that is starting right now, they've played a lot together now. They've got a lot of reps together. They know how to play offensively, but they played a lot defensively together too. But I think we're putting a Gebben and a Farrell in for a Jackson and an August. Well, Martin Gebben, his charge is going to be you got to guard or you're not playing. And so I think and all our big guys are very motivated to do that. And Matty Farrell is a really good position defender. We probably lost some defense with Demetrius at the end of the year because we had him doing so much offensively. He couldn't pressure the ball and be that ball pressure guy that he really was his sophomore year. Just not realistic. We needed more on the offensive end. So I think, we're, maybe a little bit more cohesive defensively there.
Are you still trying to get Rex any time at point guard? Is that still an idea?
We've played him there a little bit. Let's say he's in there with Steve and BJ. Either one of those guys could bring the ball up the court. What I've done, though, is when I've gotten another ball handler involved, I've gotten TJ over in a white shirt and put Matt Farrell in a blue shirt. So TJ has to be the guy, because I think we've got to really groom him and get him reps there.
Mike, I'm just curious, what's the your take on the non-conference schedule, what was the thought process behind it? You have Villanova,
Yeah.
kind of 5.
Well, we got enough power games, especially when you look at the depth of the league. I mean, the schedule has everything you can ask for. If you get enough of them, you got an NCAA tournament resume there. But what do we have? We really have 5 power games in the non-league. Colorado has, I believe they've been to the NCAA tournament 4 out of 5 years, and they've got guys back. They're really good. So you got a chance up there. You're going to be playing 2 of them. Purdue's loaded and going to be they're going to be a top 25 team. Iowa's lost some stuff, but Fran's got his system in and his culture. I mean, they're playing well. And Villanova game's an exciting game. I think that's a great day of basketball. Pitt, Penn State, the second one. But, we've had some good battles with Villanova. That's an exciting one back in New Jersey. And so we've got enough power there. Our repeat opponents, that 2 of them are Louisville and Florida State. That makes it extremely powerful. So the strength is there.
I know a couple of years with the team with Connaughton and Grant, you kind of intentionally maybe had a little bit of a lighter load to get that team some confidence. Do you feel like you don't necessarily need to do that with this
Yeah,
team?
I mean, you look at some of our guarantee games are not, and I worry about anybody. You just don't know in college basketball anymore. But we still haven't gone crazy in our guarantee games. Trying to bring Murray State in here or somebody like that. But again, I'm very respectful and know that anybody can beat us. We've been bit a few times here. I think when you're coming off 15 and 17, like we were that year with Connaughton and Grant, you're not sure who you are. Can we win a little bit in November and December to kind of feel good about ourselves? I'm not, we weren't really in that frame of mind with this schedule.
Coach, in years past, you've developed a reputation as a three-point shooting team. Then last year, it didn't seem like you relied on the three-point shot as much. Do you think the three-point shot will play a big role this season?
Yeah, I think it will always be a key for us. One of the keys to our spacing has been that we have threats on the floor, usually always 3 and sometimes 4. So you can really stretch that defense. But what we've done is I think we've balanced it because we have that spacing. Those shooters have been good at attacking closeouts and driving the ball, getting fouled. There is no question the three-point line will always be a weapon for this program.
With Burns not playing in a real true game in a year, is it important, I guess, to leave him out in these exhibitions maybe longer than you might normally?
Yeah. You want to get everybody in the exhibitions and really, get them evaluated. One of the things I'm going to do today is I haven't had him playing with the white shirts much. I'm going to have him play with the white shirts a little more today in our scrimmage, just so he's feeling like he's part of it and we can get a better evaluation of him.
Mike, when you look at the schedule, it's a very brutal schedule, and last year, looking at the ACC teams, they were very physical. Have you done anything different this year as far as physical conditioning?
Well, our off-season program, Tony Rolinsky's been with us, been with me 17 years. He's got a heck of a laboratory down there, I like to refer to it as, where, he tailor makes it for guys. I think you'll see, and if you haven't seen it, Martin Gebbin's in great shape. His body fat is down. He's moving. He's bouncing better. He had a great off season that way. Bonzi's changed his body. Matt Farrell is really stronger, and VJ. So we've got a nice system down there with how to kind of get guys stronger and older because we have them 4 and 5 years a lot of times. We did our usual running and conditioning stuff. One of the things I'm really mindful of is just not wearing us out. We started practice October 2nd. I don't agree with this rule. I think October 15th should be the start date. It was always a great start date. I'm looking forward to getting through tomorrow and getting our guys a long weekend at home. But that's why I've talked about our practices being shorter now. We just really have to be like our guys work, man. I don't have to. You got to play hard. You didn't play hard enough. They go after it. That's the culture here. So when we're going 5-on-5 for an hour and a half and getting some transition, that's a heck of a workout. And I just want to make sure we're fresh. And back to Vastoria, just that's enough today. Bonzi nicked his knee up yesterday. I was about ready to stop practice. When you have a guy do that. So just really pacing them is a key.
Mike, is the basketball season as a whole just way too long?
Probably is. We've talked about, I'm on the NABC board, we talk about could we ever get a start date, an opening day? But, it's hard because we've got college football going. Could you do it in early December? Could you push it back and do an opening day? I know ESPN tries to do that marathon opening thing. It probably is a little long. It probably wouldn't hurt to shave some games off. I love the old October 15th start and, a practice. There was a while when I was an assistant at Duke, they moved practice back to November 1st. And you couldn't do anything with your guys. And you couldn't even watch a pickup game. You talk about twiddling your thumbs, for a while. Like Amaker and I are sitting there going, can only make so many recruiting calls, and you didn't see your guys till November 1. It was amazing. And now we've come back, the other way. It is long. That's why fall break, getting them out of here. Christmas, I try and get them like 4 or 5 days. I know some people don't go home at Christmas. I mean, they got to get away, and then keeping it fresh, keeping the practice plan fresh, trying to change it up. Thank you, guys.